Hello, everybody, and welcome to Balcony Chats. My name is Sam Rubinstein. Um, I am here today after a weird 1 month. After several mix-ups, we struggled to get this going, but we are here now. We are ready. We are excited. We have an amazing guest who we've been trying to get onto this show, and we succeeded this time. So, Dr. Phyllis Bivins-Hudson is a native of Suffolk, Virginia, however, has been a resident of New Jersey for 50 years. She's an advocate for education and an active member of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Dr. Hudson has been an educator as an English language arts middle within 16 years. She taught middle school students for an additional 12 years in South Orange, New Jersey. Uh, and then she was an administrator in Patterson. And the list goes on and on. She also works with I Learn Charter Schools, works as a co-founder and instructor for Rutgers University alternate route teacher training program. And the list keeps going. She's been listed as a who's who among American educators twice, was a recipient of the Governor's Teacher of the Year Award, and has authored several different handbooks. A handbook for mentors helping new teachers succeed and persist under a grant funded through the Diversifying the Teacher Pipeline from the New Jersey Department of Education. District Mentor. Sorry, we lost us there for a second. Mentee Mentor Edition participant workbook for the I Learn Charter School Organization, Back to School Survival Kit, a Jumpstart workshop, and the At-Risk Student. Her latest work is Flying on Broken Wings: Woman's Journey from Poverty to Prominence. Listen, I could keep going and going, but I feel like it's better to hear it from her than from me. Welcome to the virtual stage, Dr. Hudson. Hi there, Dr. Hudson.
Hi, Sam.
Hi there.
How are you?
The resume and like achievements list is quite the impressive one.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And
Um,
thank you for having me on. Finally, we got together, right? After
yeah,
that
this is
super in
it's been a
Vegas.
long time coming, but I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
Yeah.
Um, and get the chance to speak and talk and kind of go through everything. And I know I did my best to introduce you, but I feel you could definitely introduce yourself a little bit better than me. So, who are you?
Uh, well, I think you did a great job. In fact, when I was listening to you talking, I was just thinking, "Oh my goodness, I forgot about some of that stuff." We do so much when you're an educator. You just start doing things, and you do what you're told. You do what you know is right. You do those things that end up not amounting to very much. And in the end, you've got a whole list of things. And so all those things that you named were things that I had, not all of them, but many of them I had forgotten about. But I think the most important thing that you've said is that I am an educator. I will always be an educator, of course. Once we become an educator, we are always an educator, and it's my passion actually, because I'm actually supposed to be retired. But I tell people when they say, "I thought you were retired," and I said, "Yes, I am, but I'm not tired." And so, because I'm not tired, I'm not retired, and so I'm still at it. I guess one of the things I could say that you didn't mention is that I am an education consultant, and so through my company, I have a consulting company. It's a consulting and publishing company actually that I started back in 1993, and I'm sorry, 1996, and my company has been around since then, and it is through that company that I do all of this work that I'm doing now that I'm supposed to be retired. So I'm still at it.
So that's the dream. We were talking a little bit beforehand about the whole need to stay busy. Um, And I feel like that's a great place for us to kind of start.
Mhm.
Um, as someone who is retired, but also still very much active in both the education community and within your own personal journey through your own personal work, why do you think it's so important that we stay busy?
Well, I think that first of all, staying busy keeps you relevant because you're constantly engaging with things that matter, things that are about your passion, things that are happening that if you were not busy, you would miss out on these things. And so I think we have to remain busy. Also, it's healthy. It's really healthy to remain busy because you're keeping the brain going. When you stop, the brain stops. The brain, it works. And if you know what happens when we have a body part that we don't work, if you sit too long, your legs get stiff, right? And you have to get up and move them around. So I think that, the brain kind of sort of functions that way as well. If you don't use it, it's like that old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I am constantly trying to use my brain. And I tell you, the other thing is that, as I said before, education is my passion. I love to learn. I love learning. I could have been a professional student. I could have just gone to school all my life and just been a student, and I would have been fine with that because I love learning and I like school. I will say this, just this little caveat though. When I finished my doctorate program, I was done with school. That program was so difficult. When I finished with that, I said, "Okay, so I think I've had enough." But even though I said that, I'm still at it. I still do what I do because, as I said, I want to be relevant, but also because I think it's healthy to do that.
I very much understand that kind of need to kind of keep in loop. My students always for those who don't know that I teach when I'm not doing this, um, my students often ask like, "Mister, what's your dream job?" I want to go to school. Like I want to be a student. This is as close as I can get to being a student every day, without paying a lot to go to college all the
Right,
time. And
right.
so,
And
I
so what you
understand that.
said there, that's important. What you said just right there, because what happens is when we are teaching, I think a lot of times people hear us talk about teaching, and as teachers, we're teaching students, right? But at the same time, we're also learning. We're constantly learning. We learn about different cultures. We learn about different personalities. We learn about the developmental stages of all of the students that we're servicing. We learn about a whole lot of things that perhaps we would not know about if we were in a different arena, or if we were not reading to find these things out. So I think that we're constantly learning with our students, and that's also a good thing too, because that again helps to keep us relevant.
I I I agree with that. I mean, every day is an adventure when it comes to this. You always find out something new.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
um, keeping us both on the topic, but I also kind of move in a different direction. I did actually, in the world of teachers, wanted to talk um, about your book
Mm.
um, and how education and teachers kind of made an impact on you from where you were to where you are now. Um, so,
Mhm.
do you want to talk about that kind of that for those who've not read your
Sure,
book, for those who don't know your story?
sure. So this is my book. It's called Flying on Broken Wings. And as Sam said, it's subtitled "One Woman's Journey from Poverty to Prominence." And I say that because many times people look at me and say, "Poverty to prominence? When were you in poverty?" Well, I have to tell you, when you read my book, you recognize from the very first page that I was very much poverty stricken, um, homeless many times. Uh, can't even count the number of times. In fact, in second grade, I often tell people, when you read the book, you see that when I was in second grade alone, I was homeless at least 3 times, and I recall that being the case because I remember changing schools at least 3 times. So for me, it wasn't so much that I was focusing on the homelessness as it was that I was focusing on the fact that I loved school so much and I had to keep constantly leaving school, moving from place to place. And what always scared me more than anything, it wasn't that I wasn't going to have a place to live, or it wasn't that I wasn't going to have food to eat. It was that I needed a school to be in because I loved school. And that would bother me more than anything else. It's like, when my mom would say we've got to move again, or my mom would say we don't have any place to live, I would say, but when we find some places, they're going to be a school, because I needed to be in school. And so
No,
something happened. I don't know what happened, Sam.
we lost you for a sec. We've
Okay.
got you back. You're
Okay,
good.
good. So I think even more so was the fact that I had teachers who, before they became teachers, they were humanitarians. And that's extremely important. If you're going to be a teacher and you're going to be an impactful teacher, you have to be a humanitarian first. And my teachers were that. I didn't know that, but as a teacher myself now, I do know that. And I know it because they taught that to me. Even the youngest age I could remember ever experiencing it was in third grade. But my teachers were teaching me right then how to become the kind of teacher that I became. I never thought about being a teacher. I didn't know what I was going to be. In fact, when I went to my undergrad school, I was at Jersey City State College, and I was there for going into my junior year, and had no idea that I was supposed to declare a major. See, for me, it was because of my love for education that I knew I needed to be there. So I made it a point to try to make sure I was in the school. But then after being there, I didn't know how everything worked. I didn't know about the different protocols. I didn't know about the different classes you're supposed to take. I didn't know any of that stuff. I just wanted to be in school. I had pulled myself up out of this poverty-stricken state that I was in. I was now a college student. And so I didn't know that there was something else that was supposed to happen. And so lo and behold, a student said to me one day, so what's your major? And I said, well, what's that? She said, well, you're supposed to declare your major. And I said, I don't know what that means. And so she said, well, you need to go see a counselor. I said, okay. And so I did. And when I went to see the counselor, of course, the counselor asked me the same thing. What is your major? Or what do you want to major in? And I said, I don't know. I didn't know I needed to have a major. And so she says, okay. So what she did was, during that time, they weren't using the computers to do this. And not that that makes me that old, but they would have these long, these long sheets of paper. I remember them being a long sheet of green paper. And it had all these spaces in there where you were to fill out the classes that you had taken. And so she got my transcript and she started filling in those places. And so, all of the humanities and the psychologies, the maths, all of the different courses that we were supposed to take. And when she was done, she said, well, it looks like you want to teach. And I said, well, what made you think that? And so she says, when I start filling all this in, all the classes you've been taking have been education courses and psychology courses. And I said, oh. And right then, Sam, a bell rang in my head. And that was the bell of my third grade teacher, who was the first person to say to me, when you grow up, you're going to be a teacher just like me. And I didn't think about that at that point, because when she was telling me that, I was too hungry, too busy thinking about where we were going to live. In fact, that day that she told me that, I remember I was sitting next to her, and excuse me, I had come to school. It was in December. It was very cold outside, snowing and just really cold weather. I had come to school with no coat on. But as a humanitarian, my teacher had paid attention to that. She didn't say, oh, she doesn't have a coat on, that's her business, or, oh, well, let her parents take care of that. It wasn't none of that. She noticed that. She also noticed that I had bottomless shoes on. And so as a result, without saying it to me, because that was the other thing about being a humanitarian, she allowed me to maintain my dignity. So it wasn't about discussing this in presence of anybody else, not even with me. She didn't discuss it with me. She discussed it with my mother, and she took food and clothing to our house so that, and my birthday is the day after Christmas. So when Christmas came, Christmas Day came, and the day after, I had all of this stuff that I didn't have before, namely a coat. I had a coat, I had some shoes, and we had a whole box full of food. Now, I say a box full of food, that's significant because two things. One, we didn't have any food, and two, we didn't have a refrigerator because we had no electricity. So there was no sense in having a refrigerator with no electricity. And we're not talking about a really, really long time ago. This was in the 60s. So this all of this was going on, and all of this is actually it's in my book, and I talk about how my teachers saved me by making sure that I got an education, and as a result of that, unknowingly, I was paying attention. And so when I became a teacher, I became what I called a Mary Alice Davis teacher, because Mary Alice Davis was my third grade teacher. And she was the one that I first paid attention to, who paid attention to me. And I noticed that after that and before that, there were other teachers in my life who did the same thing. It was just that I didn't really pay it any attention until Mrs. Davis did it. So I, as I said, I inadvertently became a teacher, and I became not just any kind of teacher. I became a Mary Alice Davis teacher, making sure that the same kinds of things that my teachers did for me, those are the things that I actually did for my students as well, because my students came to me and they were needy just as I was when I was a child.
I mean, I think it really does kind of put into perspective the not only the impact that a teacher could have on one person, but that kind of long lasting effect.
Mm-hmm.
Because what that teacher did is essentially create a teacher who created more teachers who, having been in your class, can say, it's a kind of like a almost like a tree. It is literally this kind of impact. And I think that really does show the effect not only of education on you, but what that then gives you the ability to kind of do.
And that can work in the reverse too. That can work in the reverse, because if my teachers had not been humanitarians and had just kind of thrown me to the wolves, so to speak, that may have been the kind of teacher that I would have become had I still pursued being a teacher. I could have been that teacher who walks into the classroom, and that we know lots of them, who they walk in that front door, they go to their classrooms, they've got this tunnel vision, and all they see is who's in front of them, and they get that curriculum, they teach whatever it is that they have to teach, and they're gone. And it's not about saving anybody's child. It's about, this is a job I have to do, and that's it. And because you and I have had conversations, that education is bigger than that.
Yeah. So I wanted to, again, kind of keep kind of going on this kind of direction with this book, because I find, especially with a lot of the topics that you cover, the way you kind of go in depth into a lot of territory that is at times difficult. I know it's difficult, like from the perspective of a reader, because it hits in certain ways. Was any of that, difficult in writing, kind of this trudging up of different parts of your past, both the good and the bad? Was any of it really difficult, or do you feel the story kind of came naturally for you?
It was difficult. It was very difficult. As a matter of fact, Sam, there were times when I sat and I wrote pages and pages and pages, and I cried through the whole thing. There were times when I'd have to put it away and walk away from it and then come back to it. It took me 17 years to write this book. So it started a long time ago. I started writing this book in 2003, and I didn't publish it until 2020, because it was hard to get through it. And what finally helped me to get through it was, believe it or not, COVID. When we first got into COVID in 2020, people were grappling for, what am I going to do at this time? What am I going to do with all my time? I can't go out of the house. I can't do this. I can't do that. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to sit out on my patio and I'm going to finish this book. And that's what I did. I finished the book. But even then, because I was sitting there and I was really concentrating on what I was doing, there were still moments when I had to put it aside, because you have to think about the fact that in the book, as you said, there are lots of very difficult topics to talk about. Because there's sexual abuse, there is all this rape, there's the homelessness, there's the hunger, there's the domestic violence, there's just so much that's going on, and all of these topics are very heavy topics. Um, my own daughter, my older daughter, is an avid reader. She'll take a 500-page book and in 2 days she's done, because she loves to read. She has yet to get through my book. She said I can't get through it. She tries, but she can't get through it. And part of it is because this is her mother, and she realizes that these are not things that she's just reading about somebody else, and these are things she's reading about that happened to her mother. So it's not easy to get through, um, but I think that when anyone who does read it, when they do get through it and they get to the end and they see that I am who I am now, they realize that there is light at the end of that tunnel. And I found that light. And that's what's important, is that I found that light.
And that actually kind of, see, there's a process here that leads me right into my next question. Was the writing of this was it in any way kind of therapeutic for you? Especially kind of getting, for you, by the end when you were writing, going, oh wait, there's this like light at the end. Did you have that same kind of realization? Was it a therapeutic experience?
Yeah, it actually was. It was therapy for me, because you have to imagine, when I was experiencing all of this, there was no therapy. I was just holding it in. I was experiencing it and then holding it in, not having anybody to talk to. A lot of what happened, especially the sexual abuse, my mom never knew about it. My mom passed away when she was 47 years old. And in that 47-year span, she never knew uh, what had happened to me, all those terrible things that had happened to me. Now, she was aware of the hungriness and the homelessness, because we were together during that time, but she never knew about all of the sexual abuse. So that kind of stuff, is the thing. Like, you got this burning thing inside of you that you just got to get it out, and you're trying so hard. I had to get it out, and writing it was my therapy. Once I put it all on paper, I actually began to feel better about it. It was like a burden had been lifted from me, and I didn't realize that that was something that I needed to do, uh, until I started doing it. But the other thing that happened to me, was the fact that I learned that once I started talking about it, the more I talked about it, the better I felt. And the first audience I had that I really talked about it, that was not my family, because my family always knew. But the first audience I had was my alternate route teachers. I always had this assignment that they used to do. It was called an autobiography, and in that autobiography assignment, they would write about themselves. And I remember a teacher saying to me once, "Well, um, can you explain what we're supposed to do?" And I said, "Well, this is not just an autobiography where you're telling me about, where you grew up, or you this, that, and the other. I'm this. This is my age, and this is my. No, this is not that. I want you to talk about your journey into becoming a teacher, and that's the autobiography that I want you to write." And so somebody said, "Well, give us an example." And so I started talking about how I became a teacher. I started talking about Mary Alice Davis. And in the middle of that conversation, I had a breakdown. I just had a meltdown right there. I started crying. I couldn't control it. I had to ask them to forgive me. I said to them, I had no idea this was going to happen because I had never said this before out loud other than to my family. And so, and when I say my family, I'm talking about my children, my three children, and my husband. I had never have never discussed that with anybody else. And so when I chose to say that in the classroom, it came out as a natural thing because she was asking me for an example. And as teachers, you give examples, and the best examples
Yeah.
is to give ones you've experienced, right? And so I was sharing this example that I had experienced, not realizing what was going to happen. And as a result, I started crying, and what I did realize at that point was that once I did that, I felt something. I felt better. And so I realized then that I really needed to continue writing, and I needed to get it out. And it helped the students, the alternate route students, the teachers, because when they started writing their autobiographies, then they came from that same perspective. And in at least two or three of those classes, there were people who experienced similar things, and they ended up, when they tried to tell their stories, they ended up the same place that I was, that an emotional mess. But afterward, they felt better about it. So yes, the writing is therapeutic. That's the short answer.
But it does. It gives you this kind of like idea of, of how important the writing is, but the reflection itself, and that doesn't just only apply to teaching. I
Right.
think being able to reflect on who you are and where you came from to where you are now as a person, no matter who you are, does kind of give a good perspective. Um, and it is something that I personally have been working on as a human.
Hmm.
Just, and I think that it for those who are listening, it it does kind of give you this mindset.
Hmm.
Um, what I want to do right now, if I may, is we in the middle always try to do a little like quick time. I'm going to give you one, just a quick, as soon as you can, first thing that comes to your mind kind of response.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to ask a couple quick questions with quick, you know, easy response, and we'll see what we get. Who knows what's going to happen? Not
Okay.
me. Um, I did change some of the questions around to kind of
Okay.
reflect different aspects of it.
All right.
So we'll start with, um, is there anyone that you're reading right now? Like any books that you're reading?
Yes. I'm reading the dream, is it Dream Keepers with um um Gloria Latson Billings.
Okay. Is there a TV show or book that you recommend we all either watch or read right now?
Yes, Flying on Broken Wings. My book.
Best answer. Um, uh, is there uh, is there a kind of a person who's either becoming a we'll start with the teacher one. Yeah. Is there a person coming up in the world of education that you think people should look out for, whether for what they're teaching us?
Yes, people like you, people who, and I'm not saying that because I'm on your show, but people like you. When I say that, I mean people like you who really do care about kids. We need more people in the classrooms who care about children. They care about what they're doing. I don't know if people know, but you've been looping. And for those of you who don't know education, looping means that you're with the same kids for 2 or 3 years. Sam has been with the same group of kids for 3 years. Those kids are lucky because they have somebody who truly cares about them. And so those are the kinds of teachers that we need. That's what I would like to see in the classroom.
See, these responses are never what I expect. I gotta keep going, keep that professionalism. Uh, is there okay? This one's kind of more meant to be silly. Maslow or Bloom?
Blooms.
Okay. Um, and then the last one is, this is gonna be really silly. Of the Danielson domains, which do you think is your most important one for a teacher?
Classroom management.
Okay. I wanted I mean, I agree with that one. Um, my
If you
number
don't have
one,
good classroom management, all else is going to hell.
I agree with that. For me, my top two are always classroom management and building a rapport and environment
Mhm,
for learning. I
mhm.
think those are the two most
Yep.
important.
And when
Um,
when you flip that, Sam, if your classroom management is if it's what it's supposed to be, the rapport is going to follow.
True. I think that one, um, my principal, you know, my principal, vice principal always say, "Oh, you report the students to that." Part of it is I've had them for 3 years, but
Mhm.
also what I've always found and what I think is important is you want to create an environment where you can ask whatever question.
Yep.
It,
Yep.
uh,
And
uh,
then when you create that environment and students ask you questions, you got to answer them.
yeah,
You can't act
and
like there's something wrong with the question now because you put it out there.
yeah, I no, I agree with that. I also, for those listening, if you're ever wondering, the I think one of the best things a teacher can do is say, "I don't know, but I'll find out."
That's right.
Um,
And you know that's
I
my
remember
philosophy.
I was younger and I was a pain in the butt. Like I'll tell, we've had this discussion previously. I was a pain in the butt as a student. I was a pain in the butt as a kid. Like, and I would ask whatever questions came to mind, and there were sometimes really just these complex, unnecessarily deep questions, and like this is third grade spelling. You can't be asking us about this. And I was like, but I remember I the first time I asked a teacher and they genuinely looked at me, it's like, I don't know, but I'll find out with you.
Mhm.
It makes it makes it a collaborative learning experience.
And not only does
Oh,
it make it a collaborative learning experience, Sam, the other thing that it does is it makes children understand that you are human because you're humanizing yourself by saying, I don't have all the answers. I am not perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect being. And so when you admit that you don't know something, you're saying, I am as human as you are. And then you go to the next step, which is, I'm going to help you figure this out. So absolutely, it is it's been a part of my philosophy since I first stepped in the classroom because I knew when I first stepped in the classroom that I didn't know everything. I was learning. So
yeah. It's one of those things that just my if you're ever working with kids, just be willing to be honest with them on what you
that's
do
right.
and don't know.
And
My students also are convinced that like
that helps your classroom management too,
yeah,
when you're
like
honest with them because they look at you as this real person who is not about trying to BS them. And so they will go the whole yard with you. They go all the way with you. So yeah, so you got to be honest with them.
um so I do want to like I'll let everyone know we could do this like the entire time. We could talk about classroom management, the whole kind of importance of developing strong relationships with these students. But we also have we we gotta follow the plan here. So we'll come back to it when we get a chance. But one of the other things I want to talk to you about is your YouTube series, Flying on
Mhm.
Broken Wings, the Thursday sidebar. Um, you've had the opportunity to interview and to kind of talk with and have these good discussions with some pretty impressive people. You've talked with about finances, you've talked about education, you've talked about literature, your work as an author, um, and I think first off, you can kind of weave your way around this question. Do you have a guest that you think was one of the most interesting to have spoken with?
Yes, actually, I do. Unfortunately, that one has not been edited yet. But there's a gentleman that I spoke with whose name is Mr. Clarence Ali, and he is one of New Jersey's best kept secrets. He's a gem. I don't you probably you weren't even just I don't even know if you were born then, but there was this theater called TUI down in Newark, and it was a theater that a lot of the African American performers performed at, and it was thriving and doing really really well. And this guy was the guy who was the owner of it. He was the one who got it started, and so he got a whole lot of actors that you see today. They came through TUI, one of them being Samuel L. Jackson. And I know you know Samuel L.
Yeah,
Jackson, right? So he was one who came through there, but there were many others who came through there. And I had an opportunity to interview him, and it was supposed to have been a 30-minute interview. It ended up being an hour, and it could have been 3 hours. Um, it's unfortunate that it has not been edited yet, and that's not on me. That's on the news platform. They haven't done that yet. Uh, I knew how to do the editing. I would have done it because I really wanted that story to be out there, because he had so much to offer, and talking about back in the day when that theater started, which was back in the 70s, and talking about the different people who are now big name stars who came through that little theater right there in Newark. So and the theaters, it still exists, but to some extent it's not like you a place where you go now,
Yeah.
but it exists for other things. But this man was the one, and his name was Clarence Lilly back then, but he changed his name, so his name now is Clarence Ali. And that one interview is one that I thought was, all of the interviews were good, but this one I thought was very, very good and needed to be out there, and has not come out yet. And I'm still pushing for it, though. I haven't given up. And I think that part of the problem is the fact that it was done on Zoom. And so from what I understand, there's a different kind of an editing process that goes on Zoom. So it's not like the traditional stuff.
Yeah, Zoom editing is a whole new world.
Yeah.
So
But at the same time, but I was told, that's where I was told to interview him. I was
Yeah.
told to interview him on Zoom, and that's what I did. I'm wondering if I could post that on my YouTube, just the way it is.
I don't know. I'm not saying anything because I don't know what the legal answers to that
Me
question
either.
are.
I don't know how to. I don't know how to. I have his permission, or I just don't know how to post on YouTube.
Well, that I could have. I would. I
Okay,
would
so you know I'm
absolutely
going to
help
give
him.
you a call, right? You know I'm going to give you a
Of
call after and say,
course.
Sam, I need you to help me with this.
So kind of keeping on this idea, where you're very much used to kind of the role of the interviewer,
Mhm.
and now the tables have turned. Any advice for as an interviewee for me?
No, not really. I think you have really good questions, and you and you know that your questions are good because it keeps your interviewee talking. If you one of the things, one of the strategies that you're using, which we both know that we use in the classroom, and that is that you're asking open-ended questions. And so it allows your interviewee to really stretch out and just do whatever and say whatever needs to be said. Because if it was a closed question, my answer would just be yep, nope, and that's it. And you move on, right? So
Fair.
you have not asked those kinds of questions, and so I think it's great.
Thank you. Again, not expecting the compliment, the nice things. I always am like, but I think
But you know
if
me, Sam. You know
yeah,
me. We've been together now for a while, and you know how I am. If I can't say something good, I'm not saying anything. So, and even if it's
oh,
something that needs to be said that's not good, I'm going to find a way to say it so that it benefits you, as opposed to tearing you down, because that's not what a humanitarian does.
I know
Humanitarians
that
help build
I
you
will say I'm thankful for that. But for those who are watching and or listening, remember you want to keep your questions open. You want to make it so that your guest is comfortable talking. That is podcast/interview management/classroom management 101 right there. So uh in terms of kind of this transition, I know when it comes to doing these, and we've talked about technology, the whole range, how did you kind of get involved with it, and how's it been for you?
So for me, it's first of all, it's been extremely exciting. I didn't think that I would love it, but I do. I didn't think that I would get it, but I am getting it. I have found now that I every week I'm videotaping something, either myself or um, or someone is interviewing me. 2 weeks ago, I went to a celebrity wedding, And I found myself, found myself in the hall of the hotel, making a video. 2 days of the weekend that we were out, and I thought, this is not something I would ever have done before. I would have been just trying to get prepared for the wedding and just sitting around and waiting, and then going to the wedding and coming back. And but and I even did videos of the wedding. Took some video footage of the wedding. That would never have been. But all of this has come about because of what I'm doing now. So I love what I'm doing. I wish I could do more of it. Actually, the part that think I'm missing is what I just mentioned to you before, and that is the knowledge of knowing how to actually edit the film. Because if I knew how to do that, I would get it done, and I wouldn't have to depend on somebody else. But because I don't know how to do that, I'm at somebody else's mercy.
I understand that. When I was in college working for our college TV station, I could write the scripts, I could direct the scripts, I could act, but I wasn't a solid editor.
Right.
And similarly during COVID, I said, well, I want to make things. I want to do stuff. I want to
Mm-hmm.
make videos. And I didn't have the skill. So I took the time, sat down, learned the editing process. And it's not easy, but once you kind of get the eye for it, it makes your life easier, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I've started working with the iMovie stuff. I know how to do the iMovie. I
yeah,
can do that. I just don't know how to do what they do at the radio. I mean, at the news station,
yeah,
because RLS Media, that online news platform, they're the ones who do that, and I don't know how to do what they do. So
I understand that. It's a good learning experience. So
yeah,
no matter how you do it.
yeah.
So with that, I know when this whole when you kind of began doing it, you were approached by them,
Oh,
or
yeah. So that story was that I was doing these. Initially, I started out doing these 10-minute talks on Facebook. And then, a few of my friends looked at it, and it was all about my book. And so a few of my friends looked at it, and then they said, well, I enjoy what you're doing. Then my branding coach looked at it, and she said, they're very good, but they're too long. And I said, oh, and here I am thinking 10 minutes, and I'm thinking this is probably going to be too short. And she said, no, it's too long. So I said, okay. So she said, you need to try to say what you're going to say in 5 minutes, because it's on Facebook and you're going to lose your audience if you don't. So I said, okay. So I did. I started doing these 5-minute videos, and I would talk about the different themes in my book. And the CEO from RLS Media happens to have been surfing, and see all this language. I didn't know about this stuff before, surfing and all that stuff. I'm getting better.
I will say you very much are.
So at any rate, he started surfing through, and he found one of my videos, and he looked at it, and he said to me that he went back a second time and looked at another one. And he said, and then he saw a third one. And once he saw the third one, he said he was convinced that there was something he could do for me. And so we talked, and he said they were looking for content, and I was looking for exposure. And so it was a great marriage. We started with me doing blogs. And so I'm still doing blogs. I do a blog twice a month, and they open up a space on the header that says on the front, was that the front page, opening page? Yeah.
The
And
homepage.
it says the Dr. Hudson Show. So when you click on it, you see all my stuff there, and all this, all of that stuff is the videos that you were talking about, but also the blogs. Now that's not on my YouTube. Some of the videos are on the YouTube, but not the blogs. So at any rate, we talked about that, and he decided that he wanted me to do that. So I started doing that. And then that led to me doing these interviews with these different people, because he said to me, he says, doing this by yourself, after a while, it's not going to work. You're going to find that people are going to want to hear somebody else besides you. And I said, okay, but what are you suggesting? And so then he says, you should think about interviewing other people. I said, oh, okay. And so then I'm thinking, who am I going to interview? so, so I started asking people, and I was amazed at how easy it was to get people to agree. And my daughters reminded me, they said, "Ma, uh, most people don't say no to you. People like you, they genuinely like you. And so they always just say yes." And I think about even you, Sam, when I came to you and said, "Sam, I need you to come on and train me and my two colleagues how to do." Remember that? You came
Yeah,
on and trained us.
I had a blast. It was fun.
So that's kind of how it happened. And I started interviewing these people, and okay, so this is going to lead to May 21st. Is that okay to do that?
Go
Okay.
for it.
Okay. We decided we were going to have one of the interviews on my patio, and it was going to be live. So we invited guests. So we had all our guests out on the back of my home on the patio, and we had these two professional relationship coaches, Elitia and Cullen Maddox. So they came, and I interviewed them. And that interview was supposed to have been 30 minutes. It ended up being an hour and 1 minute. Got really involved, and the people were enjoying it. And so afterward, the audience were saying to me, "You need to have them back because they were really good. We didn't have enough time," and yada yada yada. And so I said, "Oh, okay. Well, let's see about doing that." So then I came up with the idea of having an entrepreneurial explosion, which is going to be on May 21st, and this event is going to be an outdoor event so that those people who are still concerned about COVID can feel free to just kind of walk around and be in the air, right, as opposed to being on the inside. I have 11 confirmed authors who will be there that day, and Elitia and Cullen Maddox are two of them. I make three, and then I have nine others. Eight other, eight, nine, 10, 11. Right, eight. I have eight others that will be there. We have vendors. We're going to have a live jazz band. We're going to have lots of giveaways. We're going to have a magic show. We're going to have a light fair. What else? Oh, we have, I don't know if I said door prizes. We have some really good door prizes. People also going to be able to be exposed to a cigar etiquette talk. There will be some self-care coaches there who will be talking to people. And those people who are in the VIP section, and I'm glad to say that all my VIP tickets have sold now, but they will get to, at the end, they will get to have a private conversation with the two relationship coaches, because the relationship coaches part is going to be videotaped. So that's going to be videotaped to go on my channel like the first one was. And we'll have the live audience there. But then after that, those people who are VIPs will have a private conversation with the relationship coaches, and to further their conversation and get their questions answered. And now let me ask you this. Doesn't that sound like a lot of stuff?
It does, but it also sounds like a great time.
So guess how much it costs?
How much does it cost?
$15. And that's it. $15 is all you have to pay for this, and you can get your tickets through Eventbrite. And I've sent you the flyer, and that flyer will have the link on it where you can go to Eventbrite to pick up your ticket. And it's from 10 to 3, and you don't have to stay all day. You can come in, stay a while, leave, come back. You can talk to the author. Somebody's going to walk away with a basket of autographed books as one of our door prizes, because all of our authors are contributing books, and we're going to have them sign those books, and somebody's going to walk away with a basket filled with those books. So that's what we're going to be doing. And that's kind of what, how this has spiraled into this thing that I was just talking about. So I hope your audience who's listening, I hope some of them will think about attending.
Yes,
Were
if
you
you
able to
are
get
listening, if you are, what? What's up?
Did you ever get the flyer?
No, but I did just share the Eventbrite link.
Oh, okay. Oh, you have it.
As soon as you said Eventbrite, I was able to pull it up real quick.
Okay, but I mean, do you have the event that I told you about, Entrepreneur Explosion?
Yeah, of course. It takes me 5 seconds. I got you. Watch this. Hold on. Give me a sec. Bam! Right there. That's
Oh,
you.
that's it. And that's Alicia and Cullen.
Yeah. So this is the
Yeah.
event. I just shared the link for those who are listening. If you're listening at a later date, I will make sure that it's available somehow in whatever links you're listening on. If you're watching it on YouTube, I will add it to the YouTube description. We'll make sure that we can spread the
Yeah.
word for this. But it is
Yeah.
as you see, it is $15 for your regular ticket. It is Saturday, May 21st, from 10 to 3 in West Orange. It's going to be a blast.
Yes, it
Uh,
is.
from the more you keep going, I'm like, this. There's no way all of this is going to be happening once. Between the cigar etiquette talk, the live jazz, and I'm a little bit. I guess it's the kid in me. The
The
talent,
magic show.
the magic show. I was like, what?
Listen, that's the kid in me. That's why that's gonna be.
So I think it's one of those opportunities. I shared the link for everyone.
Great. Thank you.
If you are interested, we will make sure to make it as available as possible. Register today. It'll be a blast. There's no other
Yes.
word for that.
Yes, it's definitely gonna be a blast. Thank you so much for that.
Of course. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah,
You
this is
you
my
made my
pleasure.
job real easy because I was about to go into that question and I'm just talking. I was like, okay, you knew what I was gonna do and you just went with it.
Yeah, it just naturally happened. I just needed permission to go for it.
So, I want to say a huge thank you for taking the time to be here. I know it was a long time coming. It took some
Yeah, yeah. But
weaving to
we
figure it
got
out, but
here. The pleasure was all mine, Sam. And anytime you want me to
um,
come on, just let me know. I'll be happy to return.
I would love to have you back. I know as this company is working and growing, we're looking to also do panels, live in-person events, and a bit more kind of grow. And so, I will definitely be in touch
Sure.
later on. With that, if you give me 1 second for the part where I have to, plug our
Mhm.
own work. Here we go. One, please come down to the Atlantic City Poetry Festival. I will be performing with When People Speak on Sunday, April 23rd. It will be me and several other amazing poets. I'll be at the When People Speak section with James Ellerby. There are going to be a lot of amazing poets there. Please come on out. Additionally, on the 27th, we will be hosting a open mic / feature for our next episode of Live from the Living Room. On the 23rd, Sarah is going to be at Monmouth University. On May 7th, Sarah is hosting a live walk and reading at Homedale Park. We'll keep posting all of this. We've got a lot of other stuff coming up. If you're interested in signing up, we will be bringing hatchets and haikus to you very, very soon. Dr. Hudson, it is a writing workshop / axe throwing extravaganza. Because why not? You can get Dr. Hudson's book, Flying on Broken Wings, on our website, which I will again share in the chat. You can also purchase my book, A Candle Regaining Strength, at samsdumbface.com. We've got Dr. Hudson's Authorpreneurial Explosion on May 21st. There's a lot of amazing things coming up.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
I think I got everything.
It sounds like you did, Sam.
Yeah, I hope. We're also looking to bring back the virtual and/or in-person panels starting summer. A lot of good things are coming up. So I do want to say a huge thank you for being here.
Thank you for
It has been an
having me.
absolute blast,
This
I
was
think.
really, yes, this was a blast. So thank you for having me. I think I had more fun than you did.
Listen, I had a lot of fun, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. With that, we have a set of final question
Sure.
for you.
Hmm.
So, as someone who's worked in memoir writing, worked in education, done all these amazing things, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone who's just kind of beginning their journey, whether it's through education or in writing? What do you think we all should know?
Ooh, that's a loaded one. But I think we should all know what we're getting into. If you're going into education and into the classroom, I think you should know that the children that you meet are not going to necessarily be children who are like you, children who are like the children you grew up with, even. And because you can expect that the children will be different, you have to come with that mindset that these are not your children. These are not necessarily your neighborhood kids, your next door kids. And so if you come with the mindset that whoever they are, you respect them for who they are and from where they come, and then move into that arena with them and be true to yourself, I think you'll be fine.
Oh, that's a good one to end on. Thank you so much again. Um, Folks, you heard it here. You want to be honest, whether it's in teaching, whether it's in writing, you want to be true to yourself. Um, because there are people who, like you said, are coming from all different walks of life. And if you're honest with yourself, they will be honest as well. Dr.
Mhm.
Hudson, I cannot stress enough how amazing this has been. This has been Balcony Chats. My name is Sam Rubinstein on behalf of Second Renaissance Arts. Thank you to everyone who took the time to tune in. And we'll be back next month with another guest. All right. Goodbye and have a
Okay.
wonderful day.